Hey everybody, and welcome to Office Hours for July 17th. We've got a good group with us today. We've got Andrew Ehrman, Bob Florian, Dan Lieberman. We've got Doug and Scott. And I wanted to jump in right with a question that was from Build earlier this week, which was asking for some details about how we could improve battery life on motion sensors by changing the motion interval. Doug, can you jump in and sort of talk a little bit about that?
Sure. Originally, the set to what it is, so you could save battery, since all of these devices are battery powered. And there is a message internally that we can use to set this, and it seems like more or less it comes down to how we want to do this. If we want to do it on the web interface on the top per device, or if we want to push out a firmware update that would handle possibly setting this. For instance, if you're on USB power to go at a faster rate, whatever that rate is exactly is undecided at this point. But it is physically possible to change it. We just need to figure out what the best way to do that is.
That's pretty cool. I guess next, what I'd like to do is sort of guide our discussions today around home security and talking about what people are looking for, what we have in motion. I think one of the things we've talked about was security camera integration, and we specifically talked about drop cam before. We've got Andrew Ehrman, who I hope is going to give us a demo of what we have in motion. Not currently available, but what we've been working on.
Yeah, let me share my screen real quick. Let me just get ready. All right. There we go. All right, so that's what my screen looks like. Our drop cam tile just looks like it's the top upper left there. If you go into it, you can take stills of what it looks like. These are past ones that we've taken, but I can click take, and it'll say taking. And I can open it up, and it's just a still version. You actually see Berman in the bottom left looking at the stream of me streaming it at Someda. And that's basically it. It's not very difficult to use. All right?
That's cool. We should have Doug. Can you do something cool, and everyone will take a picture?
Look at the camera. Go crazy. Oh, look at it.
Crazy.
That's profile picture material right there.
So there's a funny story. One of the executives at SmartThings actually used the drop cam to catch his dog sitting on the sofa, and the dog was not allowed at home. So he triggered the very loud SmartThings alarm, which I guess is an effective way to make your dog freak out and get off the couch. So clearly, very, very many uses aside from dog.
You can also cycle to previous pictures and probably open one up from a long time ago. There's another one from a few days ago. Berman's wearing the same shirt, looks like. Sure, change your shirt, bro. It's a pretty simple interface, easy to use, fun times.
That's cool. I just saw Juan came in. I want to give him a chance to talk a little bit about Nest, so maybe we'll come back to our home security stuff shortly. Juan, jump in. Tell us what you've been working on.
Hi, everyone. I was basically working on integrating Nest thermostat with SmartThings, and I think I got it working. So hopefully we can improve the code from there and make it better.
Tell me a little bit about how it works. I think it's Python code running on a separate server?
No, it's PHP. Originally, I used the Python library when I was working on the Raspberry Pi, but now I'm hosting just a PHP API that I found online. on my server and making the calls from SmartThings to this API.
And how easy did you find it to set up?
Sorry, I didn't get that.
Oh, tell us a little bit about how easy was the setup and what sort of calls from the SmartThings app did you use? Or actually, it's a SmartThings device app, but
Yeah, basically, once I create the device, this virtual device, then I went to create the device type, and there was already an example on what a C-Wave thermostat. So basically, instead of using that, instead of doing the C-Wave calls to the device, I replace it with calls to the API. So once I figured out some certain things, I was able to replace all these calls, and I have it working in like 4 hours.
that's awesome, Juan. I think that internally we've decided that we are waiting for Nest to come out with an official API before we can support it. And I think we love that you stepped up and made one, and we can sort of point to it as a community example of how to pull it off.
Yeah, and just to add to that too, we had there's another user on Build who has a project for a Nest device type handler as well, Dianoga7, and he also very similarly he's using the Python middleman running on his server. But I think that as he was going through it, one of the issues that we found was that polling stopped working. So with these sort of device type handlers that are being polled on a regular basis, if they're assigned to a hub when you create that virtual device in the web UI, they won't be polled on a regular basis. And that's something that Bob helped track down yesterday. So that's one main thing to watch out for is if you do create a device type handler that's talking primarily to a web service, that you don't assign it to a hub when you create that device in the web UI. Otherwise, polling will not be or could be inconsistent.
Interesting. So, Juan, you did it by using an Arduino, right? So it's not actually a virtual
No.
device.
Originally, I didn't create a virtual device. I just associate the device type with the Arduino, but then I just create a virtual device and associate that device type to that.
Cool. So this might be a good time to have Scott talk a little bit about one of the changes that we just put out on polling virtual devices. And I don't know, Scott, can you talk to that a little bit?
Yep. One sec. All right. Yeah, we like you just mentioned. And Bob helped to track down, we have been moving toward cloud-connected devices and supporting the Dropcam, Nest, Withing Scale, things of that sort. And in doing so, we needed to change our data model to support devices that didn't require a hub. And in moving toward that, we actually found this bug that you just mentioned where polling of devices that had a hub but actually were not actually connected to that hub in real life stopped working. So we've made a fix for that, but that's sort of one step along the way of supporting cloud-connected devices and devices that are not actually in our physical ecosystem connected to our physical hub. So I think long-term, one of the things that we're moving toward is allowing each device type to specify their own polling frequency, since different devices change their values, on different schedules. For example, a thermostat might change its, or you may want to poll at 5-minute or 30-minute intervals, whereas light switches that aren't used very often, a lot less, or the Withings scale, right, unlikely to change much more frequently than once a day, or at least that's how often I weigh myself at most. So that's the longer term that we're moving toward.
Actually, I heard you mention, did somebody else have a question there?
Yeah, I have a question. So one thing that I discovered, for example, when I create the device type, I have to pass as a parameter or variable the user and the password. So I was wondering if, for example, when you create the device, you can pass parameters to the device type. So if you publish the Nest thermostat as a device type, whenever you create a virtual device, you can pass those two parameters when you select the thermostat instead of have to change the code for the device type.
So right, and on that point, I think we're moving in supporting cloud connected devices. We're trying to look at all the different ways that they can be configured and how we connect to external cloud services. Some use OAuth, some just use username and password and don't use OAuth tokens. So we're trying to get a sense of how many different ways people are doing this and targeting OAuth first. And so in the short term, you're right. We'll have to store those values either as device preferences or, in your case, in the device type handler code directly. But longer term, what we have on deck is to allow a device type handler to, using metadata, describe how they connect to the external cloud service, for example, using OAuth, and then that will kick off the OAuth journey for the user connecting to the external cloud service provider's cloud infrastructure to authenticate and grant access and so on. And then the OAuth journey between SmartThings Cloud and the external cloud provider will finish off the OAuth handshake. And we'll save those OAuth tokens and refresh tokens on behalf of the device so that you won't have to write that. You're just a little ahead of the curve here based on where we want to be for cloud-connected devices.
Yeah, and another thing that somebody else had done, so the other guy, Dianoga7, who had written the Smart Nest device type as well, used, and it's a little bit hacky, but he used the device network ID field, and he encoded the username and password into the device network ID field so that you can get that from the device type handler, and then he decoded it and used that within the code rather than actually having it in the device type code itself. Because that device network ID field is passed through to the device type handler and is a per instance ID. I wouldn't recommend using it for that necessarily, but it's one way to pass things in today.
That's right.
That's cool. Scott, I heard you mention the scale. Is that something you would talk about at all?
Yeah, I can talk about it briefly. So the Withing Scale is a device that I've wanted to integrate for quite some time. I think I mentioned it 2 weeks ago. That was one of the things that I was looking most forward to in using cloud connected or supporting cloud connected devices. So right now they have an OAuth API, and so as mentioned, we don't really support the full OAuth authorization flow yet, but I got the access token and refresh token by hand using just command line tools and stored them as device type preferences, and then I was able to create a device, and now I have it pulling every day. It pulls the latest information. So if I weighed myself that day, it'll pull my weight, BMI, body fat percentage, lean mass percentage, pulse, and some air quality metrics from wherever my scale is in my office. I don't think it's in a place yet. So that's all working sort of proof of concept. It still has, just like Juan was mentioning, it still has my OAuth token hard-coded in the device type handler. So when I have time, I'm moving toward pulling that into device preferences, now that that's something that is exposed more broadly. So I would say maybe next week I could share code. I could also, let me see if I could bring it up on the iOS simulator. I could show it here. In the meantime, let me see.
That's really cool. I actually only found out about preferences today, and I think they'll be neat to share when we're ready.
Yeah, I think we're getting close to being prepared to expose that more broadly as well. It's something that we've just started implementing and exposing to ourselves internally as we start to to work with it. There's not yet a decent UI for allowing people to actually specify those preferences and select them. That's why we haven't been widely distributing that yet, but I would say in the coming week or possibly two, I think we'll be a lot further.
Cool. While you look forward to see if you can do that, I know Dan Lieberman has a question that's come in from the build email, build@smartthings.com.
Yeah, we.
Oh, hey Dan, I think I lost you.
Muted on me. Sorry. We got a question in from Lucas, who was asking that since the hubs are connected to the SmartThings cloud, can he in the future expect maybe to be able to have his presence tag be able to associate to multiple hubs that are connected to his account? So have a hub at work and a hub at home, and the presence tag be paired to both of those.
Yeah, that's actually something that we have wanted to support from the beginning, because the big idea that we had behind the presence tag was not just whether you are at home or not, but to be able to check into multiple hubs. So it's something that has just not been prioritized with everything else that we had, all the other work we had to do and have been working on the hub. But it is definitely something that we're interested in supporting. We talked to some of the developers at Silicon Labs who make the Zigbee chip that we use, and they had some good ideas in how we would support that, since that's not a typical use of the radio itself. But definitely something we're interested in supporting. I don't currently have a decent timeline on when that would be supported, but I would hope we could get that working yet this year.
And just in the meantime, what about, I know that we don't have mobile presence on the Android app yet, but once that gets in there, can you set multiple mobile presence tied to multiple hubs so that it knows, when I have my mobile presence not just be from my house hub, but also from my home hub?
Yeah, for mobile presence, it's location-based, not hub-based, and there's only a subtle difference there, since a location can possibly have more than one hub. That's the only reason I mentioned that. But you can use your device as a mobile presence device at multiple locations. So yeah, if they have an iOS device, you could do that already. For Android devices, I don't know when that's going to be rolled out, but it's a big feature, so it's something that we definitely want to roll out soon.
And that's pretty funny because it gets into something Ermin and I were planning for today, but I think we'll have to do on a less hot day in Minneapolis. But I don't know, Ermin, do you want to talk about our concept?
Yeah, we were going to put a bunch of hubs around the block and see if I can get to them all in time. Which, when I came up with the idea, it sounded fun, and then I realized that I'd have to be running around a lot. I can barely get up the stairs without dying. So I'll have to, hopefully I'll make a short commute.
So yeah, Pac-Man Ermin needs to happen at some point in time. I think that'll be really funny.
That would be good.
Can we do that with virtual hubs and mobile presence right now?
Yeah. Yes, we can. So that's, yeah, we could do that for sure. Take a few minutes to set up. I mean, no, it's impossible. It can't happen. Unless someone else, it can't happen unless someone else is doing it. Bob, you want to run around DC?
No, it's about the same temperature here as you guys have up there right now. I've been staying inside.
Oh man,
that's really funny. Actually, so Bob, if Zach was on still, I would ask him about this. But going back to sort of home security, do you want to talk about Make It Look Like and sort of what we're doing there?
Yeah. So this app, Make It Look Like, you've probably seen before where people will use timers or whatever, hook it up to one or two lights to make it look like they're away if they're on that they're home when they're on vacation. And so what this app is going to do is has more and more potential the more devices you have connected. But when you install the app, you pick some subset of the lights in your house. Typically, it doesn't have to be all of them that are connected either through the smart energy outlet or any of the Z-Wave switches or anything that connects to SmartThings. And you pick that subset, and when you're away, when you go into away mode, the app runs, and what it does is randomly pick days in the past and essentially replay the history of those lights for that day. And so your house, you may not want to pick all your lights because you don't want to use that much electricity, but if you pick strategic ones, the kitchen light, the living room light, the bedroom light are going to turn on and off in a way that really reflects how you lived on that particular day, and there's some randomization involved. So it's a really easy way without creating schedules. If you've ever seen I think it was the original Home Alone movie, the burglars are sitting outside, and at 8:52, click, the Christmas lights come on, and they know the person is not home because it's so regular. And this is going to take care of that problem very simply without any kind of programming involved on the case of the user. And it's going to work. If you have devices that are connected to SmartThings now, when the app comes out, that history is still there. It's not like it only works from the time you installed the app onward. It can actually go back in time to whenever you had those devices connected and replay a random pattern of how they were used.
Yeah, pretty cool. I think it gets into some broader questions about what are we looking for in home security. And actually would sort of post it to anybody, particularly the non-SmartThings folks in the crowd. What are you looking for home security? Is that on the top of your mind and something you want to set up? I don't know, Juan, you're the only one that's on video.
I do have certain things, like I have my lights running on like a certain timer, and also they turn off if it's out of the time zone that I set when there is movement in that room for half an hour. I don't know. I have the siren. I haven't set it up yet, but I might set it up for when I'm in away mode. Maybe when the integration with Dropcam comes out, I might do something else too.
That's cool. For me, my favorite smart thing is the lock on my front door. But that, in my mind, it is almost more about convenience than it is about security. I don't know. Hopefully, it's having a lock is about security. But for the other folks at SmartThings, what do you think? What do you have set up for security? What do you like? I'll pick on Herman. What do you think, man? For home security, what do you think is the most useful thing to set up?
Oh.
So, when I think about this stuff, I think that, with our possibilities for deterrence are really interesting. So, it's one thing if the alarm goes off when the burglar is already in your house, but, I love the make it look like concept, the idea of timers, things like that, where, ideally the burglar chooses somebody else's house.
Yeah. What if someone broke into your house, and then when they broke in, oh, the TVs go on and say, "Get out of my house, dude! You're not supposed to be in here." And then the lasers go off, and then they lets the dog out. How about that one?
Or the Sonos recording of the 4 German Shepherds or something.
Yeah.
Like that,
Or like a really weird song from like the 70s. Just really weird the guy out. Just like Disco Inferno on full blast. That's what I would do. That's my plan.
When we made the drone, I really thought of it as a real deterrent. And we met this interesting character who was in town from Colombia, and he was basically saying, "No, I think that would really scare people away. I think that would work, even just out of sheer novelty."
Yeah, that's actually funny. There was an article, and I'll have to see if I can find it, about a group at a university that was using a Parrot AR drone not as a deterrent for burglar, but as a deterrent, as essentially a high-tech scarecrow for a vegetable garden. And when they sensed deer, they would send the AR drone sort of around the garden, and it would go back down and it would scare the deer away.
Except for when the dog chases it and catches it like a frisbee. And there's like $300 down the drain.
Yeah.
That'd be a good one. Frisbee. Play a smart app to play frisbee with an AR drone with your dog. That's part of security somehow. I don't know.
Right.
But look at Jeff Sand's comment.
Yeah, let's talk about this. I guess it was somewhat directed to Scott. Do you want to take that?
The comment. Oh, sorry, I have to be.
Right. So he's got a couple comments here, so I'll just take them in order. First, he had mentioned that scale is not super high priority, but that the IR control is something that he's definitely interested in. And I just pointed out that the withing scale by itself is not a high priority at all, but it is a good test case for the OAuth flow since they've got that. So it's one of the more rigorous OAuth flows that I've seen in the cloud-connected devices. And then Dan pointed out to him that we've done a tutorial on a SmartThings IR blaster and receiver and linked to it. And then just recently, I think, specific to this discussion on security, he mentioned Microsoft Connect sensors and recognizing people that are not residents of the house, which I think would be an interesting integration.
Sounds really cool. And I guess the new one is going to be coming out, I believe it's in September, October?
Maybe more, I will say November, December, Christmas.
Yeah, that will be really exciting to see that one. As I understand it, it's sort of twice as powerful in every way possible.
Mm-hmm. Heartbeat.
On the security front, I was going to point out not as cool as a drone, but I've got just some motion detectors and one of our multi-sensors using just the accelerometer values to turn on lights in my house that are not directly in the same room. So if my at night, if my porch recognizes, if a motion detector in my porch detects motion, it turns on a couple lights in the back of my house with the idea that, I don't know, if someone's on my porch and they shouldn't be, any lights in the house would likely hopefully send them elsewhere.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I like those a lot.
Yeah, we should set up a Nerf gun shooting to someone who goes to.
I like it. And to anybody else who's sort of watching, feel free to send us your thoughts or just pop into the chat and talk about what you're looking for in security or Nerf defense notifications. Let's see, Bob, there was something that popped up I thought was interesting because both you and I were unaware of it until fairly recently, which was the enum option in Smart Apps. Could you talk about that for a second?
Yeah, and there's going to be a number of changes coming down in the not too distant future about Smart App preferences. A lot of it driven by the cloud-connected devices. But yeah, there's an enum type, which there's several examples of that now. It was I discovered it a while before you did, but and it is in the documentation. There's also in the last month or so there was a mode type added. Before you had apps that did mode changes, you had to actually type in the mode and you had to get the spelling right and all that sort of thing. And now you don't have to do that. The mode type will give you a list of the current modes defined at the time, and allow you to select that in a select control. There are some other obvious things. There are numbers and times and text types that you're probably already aware of. There are some other obvious things that, like there's no checkbox or a Boolean type, which is going to be coming soon. There'll probably be some additional changes in this general area to make it the ability to configure the app more flexible and to the ability to deal with multiple, more configuration preferences a little bit easier on the user.
Very cool. I think that that option to just give you a choice through a num is going to be really helpful in a bunch of things I'm working on. So I was excited to hear about it. And my preferences and all that would be really fun too. Let's see, Doug. If you're up for talking about it, I'd love to hear a little bit about LAN and sort of what you have going on.
Sure. I've been working on a bunch of updates to all of our devices, the hub, the presence, the multi and the motion, some bug fixes, but there's things such as like 4 times the battery resolution being returned coming up here, the multi calibration for the temperature, and I'm assuming that if we get the nod to actually put a change in the polling rate in for the motion, and that'll probably go into the next motion sensor as well. And then we got the LAN stuff coming up, which kind of makes it so you can integrate with anything that's using more or less a standard protocol on the local area network, like your XBMC, Sonos, Hue, Wemo. I mean, possibly if Nest had an API, we could integrate with that. It would more or less enable any device in your house that it's on an open protocol to be discovered with SSDP and interface to from the top end. And I guess on that same note, we have some additional updates, just kind of adding a little bit more security to some of our packets and like background fixes and bug fixes all around.
I'm really excited for being able to do local IP stuff. And so, yeah, that's really going to be cool when that comes about. Do you have any cool demos that you've been sort of like using as test cases?
Is that to me?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I set up a demo with the Wemo here just to get this general flow in and have it integrating as if it was one of our devices right now. We played with the Sonos and the Hues a bit here, just like being able to change the color and fast forward, change the volume on the Sonos. So with that, I mean, it kind of brings in some of those things with security for potential. Maybe you have it play a song actually when somebody knocks on the door, or when you detect somebody in your house when you're not actually detected to be there. But most of it right now has been kind of a proof of concept demo, and hoping to get that integrated so that those upper layer apps can actually be written and have full interfaces to them.
And the idea of UPnP is so cool because you've got instant connectivity to those devices. I was just playing around with you, doing something of a hack where I'm borrowing their OAuth token from their website. I was able to sort of send commands that way, but definitely still feels very hacky. So it'll be really cool to have the much tighter integration that'll come from that.
Yeah, if you're willing to open a port to your router to your Hue hub, you can actually do that now. But it'll be nice to do that through our hub.
Right. The one I think that's probably the most interesting is maybe a Raspberry Pi with XBMC running. Could be a cheap alternative to having a Sonos or just a video player in general, video, audio.
Yeah, that sounds great. And then Juan did a notification center. I guess it was a week ago, 2 weeks ago.
I think like 2 weeks ago now.
Yeah. So Yeah, definitely so many opportunities there for that kind of a capability. I mean, what do you think? Do you like do you think that the functionality of the Raspberry Pi would add a lot in a notification center?
I think it's a cheaper option. To be honest, between the SparkFun Shield, it's like $39 plus the Arduino that you use. You're already over the Raspberry Pi. You can get the $25 one plus $4 in shipping, and you already have the audio there. Furthermore, when I did a test with the Raspberry Pi, it was louder than with the Arduino, which with a cheap speaker I was like playing notification. And so I don't know, both are a good alternative. If you are using it to prototype and then you are planning on manufacturing, maybe Arduino is a great option. If it's a integration at home, I think I will go with the Raspberry Pi. It will be under $50 for sure.
Cool. So I was going to open it up to any other questions that people had, or anybody who wants to talk about what they have going on. And I guess before I forget to ask this, so Dan Lieberman and I are going to be up in New York next week, and we were looking for cool maker spaces. If anybody who's watching has one that they'd recommend we check out, let us know. Cool. So any questions from the crowd coming in?
I heard that there should be a new iOS app coming out, an update. Any timeline for that?
There was an update, I think, that just hit the
I
App
heard that
Store.
there was another one after that already.
Yeah, I mean, we try to keep on top of it as soon as one is released. Then within a couple days, we usually try to resubmit because we're currently seeing about a 6 or 7 day turnaround.
Yeah, that's happening.
And I don't know if we've submitted again. I think the last one was just approved over the weekend, if I remember correctly. So I don't know that we have resubmitted yet, but I would say we're at least 6 days away from another one coming out, probably, just based on the fact that one just came out.
All right, I only asked because I have a bug report in, and I was told that the app, before I go too much into detail, we're trying to figure out the bug. They want to make sure that the new one didn't inadvertently fix it. So they're having me wait for the next update.
Okay, I'll have to double check. Who have you been working with on support?
Let's see, who was it? James.
Okay. I'll talk to him.
Oh, it's not a big deal or anything.
No, I mean, I just don't remember offhand, right? But it should be soon.
Cool. We had another message coming from Jeff who was asking about this specific controller board. I don't know. Doug, what do you think about the possibility of connecting to this? And take a quick look.
I probably need to catch up on what you're talking about here. Sorry.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, it's in the comments. You can expand them. The thing on the left, and Jeff's I guess it's the third icon down on the left. He sent over an Amazon link. It looks like it's a network board. So my guess is, were you able to find it? I can also paste it to you on Skype. My guess is that through local TCP/IP, it's probably possible to communicate with it.
Right. So we should be able to interface with it if it can talk. UPnP, it would be easier to interface with it if it does that. but there's no reason that we couldn't talk to anything that's on your LAN, as long as it has, standard protocols like UDP or TCP.
Yeah, definitely looks interesting, and I imagine that we'll continue to look for ways to make this more easy on similar things. First looking forward to trying to connect to the Raspberry Pi. I'm not sure if anybody's done that out there. Is anybody giving that a shot?
Well, one thing I just wanted to add to the conversation about the sort of PLC and talking about sort of what protocols we'll speak to over a local LAN. And I know there've been a lot of conversations internally where what we're looking at in the short term right now is sort of the SSDP discoverable, either like straight UPnP or SSDP discoverable devices that speak some sort of REST protocol or something that's a relatively high level, something that speaks HTTP, as opposed to looking at sort of these direct connections and building purpose-built protocol connectors at the TCP or UDP level. And I think just to build on Doug's comment, there's no reason why we couldn't, from a technical perspective, talk to just about anything. But what it'll come down to from a sort of prioritization and resource perspective is, how do we create hooks that talk to the most number of devices out there? And so those sort of the high-level protocols, the HTTP REST-based protocols that are discoverable through UPnP or SSDP are sort of the areas that we're targeting first.
Very cool.
Yeah, and I would almost add the Bonjour onto that list for the short list for discovery as well. SSDP is obviously going to come way earlier since it is part of the UPnP protocol suite. But there's no reason we couldn't also do the Apple MDNS DNSSD, which is called Bonjour in their language.
Bonjour.
Cool. I've always wondered about Bonjour. You see it as an optional on all kinds of things. Is that pretty common? And where do you think that is in our sort of process?
Apple uses it quite a bit, but I haven't seen any real end devices that are necessarily on it. Anything that's just a standalone piece. But it is the actual IETF approved discovery method. So I feel like at some point we'll find something that does it.
Who else out there has a question for us? Jeff was sort of talking about that board and saying it's a good choice. Cheaper than the Arduino and a networking board. And Mark, do you have anything you wanted to ask? All right. Well, cool. All right, if we don't have any more questions, maybe that's the time to wrap up office hours for this week. Thanks everybody for being with us. This was fun and very cool. Some exciting things to see happening from land-based stuff, some new apps, and I'm personally looking forward to Scott's scale when that comes out. All right. Thanks everybody. Signing off. We'll see you next week at 4 o'clock.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks, Danny. Bye.
Yeah.